accompanied by trainee number 1 from France. He is Monster Mack.
Holy frickin' crap, everyone.
Holy crap.
Can you believe it, trainee number 1? We're here with another edition of the Mackcast. You thought I was going to get shut down.
People must have thought, like, oh, they banged out 3 real quick. We're never going to hear from him again. It's going to be another 5 months off before we see another podcast.
Three Mackcasts. That deserves a good 5 months off, if you ask me.
Is that why we keep taking all this time off? Yo, I seen in Facebook today, it was like, in your memories, Mack show, Mackcast episode 40 was a year ago. That was like 4 episodes or 5 episodes ago. What the hell, man? Why was that a year ago?
Who's that with?
I don't remember.
It must be the files, the Mackcast files. Too much for us to fit in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the quality of the audio quality is too high. We have to upload small amounts at a time.
None but the best here on the Mackcast, and I'm super excited. We're rocking our old school masks for an
old school episode of the Mackcast.
Definitely, because it's been a while, and we've been wanting to do this for a while, and it always takes like a year or two to finally get the guests down. We plan a year ahead before.
Yeah, that's how the Mackcast works. So if we stop making plans with you, expect your podcast to be about a year from then. And it's not purposely, you know what I mean? It just never works out.
Trainee, I'm gonna let you do the introduction like always, because you're just so good at it.
Well, I appreciate that, Mac. But are we gonna do any Mac news? You got anything going on, or what's up?
Do we have? We just pretty much said it. We've been doing Mackcasts.
We wrestled last weekend, right? And NWW Extreme.
We took on Next Gen. What's that?
Was it Next Generation? I thought it was First Generation.
First Generation, Next Generation. Now who gives a shit?
The Generation. I don't remember the name of the tag team.
I'm sure
but we lost.
We lost.
Yeah, we totally lost.
Dude, for real.
When I say we, I mean I took a superplex and a dude elbow dropped me and kneed me in the head at the same time. It was impressive. I didn't want to kick out at that point.
I was on the outside the whole time, dude. I was celebrating after the match. I thought we won that one.
You already thought we had a victory. And, we wrestled. We had some other stuff that we did. I don't know. I think that's it, right? MonsterMac.net.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. MonsterMac.net will cover it all.
Yeah, pretty much. Go there, watch the videos, listen to the podcast. But tonight on the Mackcast, folks, a man who I used to watch when I was a kid in the PAL hall.
I feel old now.
The Thunder from Down Under, Mike Foster, is in the house, folks.
Woo! Thanks, guys.
That's a good way to kick it off. I had my friend Jared Gainham made me a best Yankee Pro Wrestling theme songs, and your song was on it, along with Brickhouse's and
which song?
A few others.
Was it my early song or my
Thunder?
Oh,
still using that song to this day, right?
You can't sing any more verses from that song. We'll get sued.
Yeah,
there's a small amount. I didn't cross it, right?
Okay,
no,
maybe another 2 or 3
I used to come out from what's that song from Men at Work? I come from a land down under.
Yes, that makes sense.
Gosh. I absolutely hated that.
Now, funny,
make you a Vegemite sandwich at
oh
some
my
point?
gosh!
Anybody?
I was not 6'4" and full of muscle. I'll tell you that.
Now, funny side story. This is before we get into the podcast and get sidetracked. I knew a dude once. You knew him too, Mac. I can't remember what the hell his name was. Anthony, something like that. Either way, he told me he would talk about how he used to go to Yankee shows back in the day and how he had Foster's Australian for Queer sign and how it made you mad. And he told me that story all the time. Like that one show he went to with that sign, and apparently it made you so angry that it the rest of his life he's been telling that story. I just want to let you know that.
Oh, nice. You know, it's a funny side story with the same thing. The shirt was too small anyways. It was like a medium or so I made it into a tank top. But I have a shirt that says Foster's Australian for Queer, and it's the Foster's beer can. And the guy who gave it to me, he comes up and he goes, you know something? I made this shirt because I thought you were an asshole.
Yeah.
But, I saw you after the match. You gave a kid an autograph and you were nice to the people you walk by. And I thought, maybe he's such a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
So I want to give you this shirt and tell you that I really think you're a good guy.
Making fun of you.
Yeah, I'm like, And I just said, yeah, thanks, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a thanks,
But so we'll bring it all the way back, Foster. This is I'm going to steal the Matt question here. What made you a fan of pro wrestling? Like, were you watching as a kid?
Before we get into that,
You cut me off.
can you make a rerun of them T-shirts? Can you repress them shirts?
Oh, I don't know.
I want one.
It was a different guy. He gave it to me for, I think it was a gift. Again,
Right,
I don't
yeah.
know if it was a gift or like a shot at me, but
A little bit of both, maybe.
I think
yeah.
so. It started off as one and turned into the other. I don't really. I can tell you the first memory I have of pro wrestling because where I grew up, there was hardly ever like it just wasn't part of our cable TV or anything.
You just
like
didn't
that.
get it.
Yeah, we were in New Hampshire of all places. I was like 7 or 8, and I couldn't sleep. We were at my grandparents' house. My mother and father and my grandmother and aunts and uncles, they would play cards all night. We were trying to go to bed, and I couldn't sleep. I go downstairs, and my grandpa never played cards. And he's like, "Oh, you can, want to watch TV with me, Mikey?" And I'm like, "Sure." And it was like a Saturday night's main event.
Yep.
And it was like a Halloween special. So all the wrestlers had costumes, and then the matches they had and stuff like that. I hated that match.
We can skip over it if you want.
I didn't like him at all.
We're watching George The Animal Steele versus Mike Foster popped on the YouTube, and apparently you're not a big fan.
No.
We can get into that later, but I'm sorry. Continue your story.
Yeah, but I just couldn't believe watching that was like, whoa, it just.
Wrestling is already wacky as it is, especially then. To add Halloween on top of it, I'm sure it was a wild experience.
I'm 7 or 8, and I'm just completely naive to it, but I just thought it was awesome. I just was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then we actually started getting the WWE, but I liked watching, back then, WWF. I liked watching the NWA on the Superstation.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Like, that was like...
That was
on like Saturday nights,
6:05.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, 6:05.
Yeah.
I was there,
just always glued to the TV watching.
I'd be pissed when they would not show it like during a baseball week or something, or baseball playoffs.
When it would get bumped for something else.
Yeah, I was like, put this baseball somewhere else.
Yeah, who cares about baseball? Where's my wrestling at?
Supposed to see Ric Flair and Ronnie Garvin for crying out loud.
Who were some of your favorites when you were watching then?
I liked Flair. I liked Magnum TA.
Yeah,
he was awesome. I loved the Road Warriors. I mean, I kind of liked the Rock and Roll Express, like the Midnight Express. I loved it when those guys wrestled.
So you
big on tag teams?
I was big on tag teams. I liked always liked the Hart Foundation and the Killer Bees. Those guys were awesome. The Rougeau brothers were really great to watch. Oh gosh. Singles wrestlers, I don't know. I like Coco Beware of all people.
That's a good one though.
Yeah,
especially as a kid when you're watching and stuff. Coco was like larger than life kind of wacky and stuff.
Yeah,
came out with the bird.
I liked Kamala.
Yeah.
I was like,
I still like Kamala. I seen Kamala live a few years ago and it was awesome.
You'd always be like, is he really like that? Oh my God, like this guy's crazy.
And it's cool because he had just put out like was it a jazz CD or a soul CD?
Oh, really?
Like where he's singing soul music. So he's in the ring and he's on the microphone and he's like mumbling and then he kicks into like a little bit of and he's like singing soul music while cutting his promo and then back to the gibberish. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed watching it.
And other guys, probably Eddie Gilbert. I was pretty. And then Tommy Rich when he was younger. Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair had some awesome matches. It's Ricky Steamboat and Steve Austin when he was stunning Steve. That was some really good stuff. I was always upset wrestling this guy because...
Is this Tim Towers?
Yeah. I mean, he was good, and I thought we could have had better matches, but he had... He didn't like me. He didn't. You could tell he didn't think much of me. So
yeah.
I didn't like that.
So, as you're a wrestling fan as a child, when did you first have the thought, like, maybe I could do this myself. I want to step in that ring and see if it's for me.
Not like all these guys. I never really thought about it. I had some. My parents got divorced late, and like when I was 20, and you know, I tried going to college, and I wasn't a bad student, but it just wasn't for me. So I didn't finish, and I got through like a year and a half, and I'm like, and I didn't have a direction, so I wasn't happy in the workforce, and just tried some things, and it didn't work out, and I was 24 and really down, or 23, I'm sorry, and I was down on my luck, and I was just like, I remember I watched it all the time. I just watched it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this.
Any indie shows at the time were you watching? Or
no, like
just on.
Yeah, I knew. Like I've gone to a couple independent shows, but like they weren't. You know, when I grew up on the Cape, so it just it wasn't around exactly.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really. It was funny. Like I knew I couldn't wrestle for the big time, especially right away. So I just was like searching how to get involved with indie shows, and I finally a buddy of mine. I didn't tell a lot of people because, of course, when you start telling people, they kind of laugh at
Right, you're like, wrestling.
You're like wrestling, like
Yeah.
who wants to do?
What's that shit all about?
A friend of mine told me I was discouraged at one point. He goes, because I hadn't found into wrestling and people weren't very supportive, and he's like, you got to remember, Mike. I mean, like, what happens if somebody goes, hey, I'm going to become a priest? You'd have kind of a weird reaction.
Right.
You know,
so wrestling's, you know, it's also kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, don't like freak out about it. And a different buddy of mine just found a poster of like, hey, and they had a show coming out in New Bedford. I forget the date, but I was like, I found the place. I got, with my maps.
Now you said the maps thing. It's because on our way here, it's like I don't know how it happened, but we bumped into each other in the real world.
That's funny.
While trying to meet up to get here, and this guy, no GPS, he's driving around with a goddamn map. Like, what is going on, Foster? How do you get anywhere?
Where do you get a map of Forever, too? That's my question.
Make those?
I know. Well, I just got off vacation with my kids. We went to North Carolina doing some whitewater rafting and stuff, and it was like the first time, like, the GPS got us there, which is fine because I don't mind cheating on the highways. But when I go to a place, I like to like know the area I'm at. Like I don't like to like travel completely blind. So I find maps. I'll spend a couple bucks to get them, and at least I can be like, all right, if I'm there, if I'm going to be there for a couple days, I want to kind of like know the lay of the land. North Carolina, like it was like. Does anybody fucking make maps anymore? Like, what the hell? Like, I couldn't find everything was like this, like could take you highway to highway here to there. I'm like, I want to know the side.
Like, where can I go into the towns?
Yeah, like if I get turned around in circles, I don't want to be driving all night and be like 2 miles from the place I'm staying. Like,
right. So you found a flyer. It's for a show in New Bedford.
Yep.
Yankee Pro Wrestling?
Yes, Yankee Pro Wrestling. That's where I did a lot of my work.
Right, and that's
for a few different guys.
Run by Uncle Joe Eugenio at the time, right?
Yeah, they were great.
Now, you applied to the school? You went to the show. Who do you remember? Who was on the show?
I remember Brickhouse Baker. I remember
House of. By the way, I want to say House of Bricks is October 15th
at the Moose Lodge.
At the Moose Lodge, folks. We're wrestling the Middlesex Express in the semifinals of the tag team tournaments.
That'll be a fun match to watch. I'll be cheating behind the curtain.
Yeah. For sure, we're gonna stomp those J Brones and send them back to Lowell, and we're going to the finals, baby. I keep saying it. We're doing it.
I'm gonna stay neutral, but I wish you guys luck.
Hey, thanks, dude. And at the last, was it the last House of Bricks show or the one previous to that you pulled some shifty tactics and acquired the House of Bricks Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship?
I'd like to say I won the House of Bricks Heavyweight Championship.
There was no shifty tactics.
I mean, definitely some shady tactics.
Okay.
I mean, I think management blew it when they just didn't announce that my Battle Royal win was for a free title shot at any time.
So it was just up in the air. Nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah, but they told me I was allowed to cash it in that night, so I cashed it in, and even the ref was kind of confused, which ran it for a really odd ending. But,
was it a 14-year-old referee?
No, but a guy I don't recognize. I mean,
Which is strange, right? When you bump into a ref you don't
yeah.
recognize.
And if he's listening, he might be pissed, and I'm really sorry. But
F him.
Yeah,
I don't know who you are, but F you, dude.
Yeah,
You screwed up the finish.
I know. It was like, what the fuck? It was funny. He's telling me, he's like, why should I count the pinfall? And I'm like, I don't know. You counted to 3.
Right? Yeah, it already happened, dog. Hand me my belt, homie.
Yeah. Management had to come out and say, like, yeah, this is legit. So
I watched the whole thing go down. It was Baker and Big John.
Munroe, yeah.
And they were street fighting all over the place.
Jesus Christ,
They were whapping.
second and third chair shots.
Oh my God, dude! David Baker is a beast.
God
of
damn
of a man. He is an outrageous human being.
I mean, I've been hit really hard with chair shots, but I am glad I did not have to take that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And you snuck right in there.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, and you left as the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Did that referee catch a power bomb at the end of the night?
No, that was the original referee. Which I don't know.
The referee is the one that counted the pinfall.
He should have
Okay,
taken the power bomb though.
I was gonna say because I know who that referee is.
No.
Talking about my boy Bobby Rossi. No trash talking about my boy. But yeah, different ref.
Different ref. So we've come full circle. Then it's pretty funny. Like you go from seeing Brickhouse at that show to winning the heavyweight championship of a promotion that Brickhouse runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
And so Brickhouse on the show. Who else? Who else do you remember from that show?
Mark Chambers, Andy Jacks. I remember them.
Andy Jacks is the name I haven't heard in a long time.
And only one other guy. Well, 2 guys. Tex McCoy was there.
Good old Tex.
Oh my God, stiffest man alive. I love him. He was stiff though.
Yes, for sure, stiff. He also had a crooked eye that bugged me out for a long time.
Yeah, he does.
And it's not a bad thing. Shawn Michaels has one too. You know what I mean? But it's just so strange.
Maybe that's why he was stiff though. He was trying to go slightly off, but
I'll give him credit though. Like most of the time, he wasn't like he would take it back and not totally complain about it, but.
Not totally complain about it.
There was I remember there was one show he beat the shit out of me. Holy cow! And
sometimes you just have those nights, man, where you just go in.
Yeah, and which I 99% of the time I didn't complain if people were stiff. That was just
right because it's just kind of grappling. Yeah,
it's code to get stiff back.
Right.
And I just remember going behind the curtain. Like I thought it was a pretty good match too, because we couldn't always say that, but. And he's like, dude, what the hell were you laying into me like that for? And I'm like, looking at him like
what was I laying into you like that for?
Didn't you feel like what you were doing to me? My God, I felt like, what the hell did I do to you?
Now, did you go right from watching that one show? Did you go back to more shows, or did you get into training?
I got into training
right away.
Yeah. So
did you speak to somebody at the show?
Yeah, it was funny. I called 3 times before I went to the show, and
that's a Yankee Pro Wrestling thing forever. They've always had a phone number on their posters where you could just call, order tickets, talk to somebody,
and they never called me back. So I went to the show, and it was funny. I don't know who was there. I'm like, hey, I called about trying to sign up for the for the wrestling, and I haven't got a call back. They're like, well, when have you called? I'm like. Called 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and
no callback.
I said it with a bit more attitude.
Right? Yeah, a little
bit
pissed
more
off.
Of a prick back then.
Right.
I guess I still am now, but
but when you're younger and you're kind of a little more of a prick than you are. When
and
you
now I'm like, I'm closing in on 24 too, so I'm like, I've already got everybody's like, oh, I started wrestling when I was 17.
Right? Yeah, you're at 24. Yeah,
I'm an old man to start. So so they got me training. They told me I could watch the show. They actually let me watch the show for free, so that was very nice of them.
That's cool. Yeah.
And to be honest,
smart business tactic too.
You don't make tons of money in the independent leagues, but for the most part, in terms of my adult workforce or work life, it's this was the Joe was one of the best bosses I've ever had.
Just dealing with him as a person in general.
Yeah, it seemed like he expected you to work hard, but when you got better, you went up.
Right, rewarded. You were rewarded for your hard work.
And working where I've worked in the area I work, it is it is not easy. There's a lot of people that were lifers in their jobs, and they don't want anybody to get ahead of them because that means pay changes and all that. So it's it's just never like that at work. Or,
Right.
sometimes you're working harder than the guys ahead of you, but yet they're still getting all the perks, and you're just getting crapped, and it's like, what the hell? So working for Joe made sense. It was like, hey,
Yeah, this works. Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm making progress. I felt I was making progress. I could hear it in the crowd. I was making progress, and
Now,
and the bookers were, like Tony the Maniac, and
Yep.
and I know there's been other bookers, and I don't remember everybody, but Bobby Cruz was one of them. He you did better. They
pushed you better.
yeah.
Now, who was running the class?
Bunch of different guys. I don't remember everybody. Jose Perez was there now and then. Brickhouse was there, but he was just more of a piece. Like Redemption was there a lot in the beginning, and just there's a few guys that I just don't remember. Tex was like a partial trainer,
But they had guys coming in and out all the time
Yeah.
to help the newer guys.
more regular guys. But
Yeah.
like Kahuna would show up now and then.
Yeah.
and then it was funny after the second year. It kind of, I don't know why, but it kind of fell apart. Like we didn't have any new signups for over a year.
Nobody knew sign up to the school.
No, and there was a high. I'll be honest. I thought I was like the first couple of days. I could take the pounding, but I was just so lost in the ring. It was just like, they're gonna tell me like, beat it, kid. But
Eventually, you stuck to it though.
yeah. But after a couple of years, when nobody was signing up, it was just me, the Punisher, Don Vega, and occasionally Stryker would come, but it was just us and we would go back then twice a week.
Right, yeah.
Anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, and we would just wrestle each other. Like Brickhouse would run spot after, like once in a while, like Brickhouse would always be there. You get his cousin Tommy there.
Yeah.
I don't remember Tommy's last name, but he was awesome. He did convict stuff, and he was just really good in his own right.
I feel like everybody's played a convict at
there's
least
been a
one
lot of
time.
them. But he was really good. Like some of us wrestle, and then some of us like are wrestlers. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. And
Like,
you're saying he...
like, by no means I'm not saying like, oh, he's like the greatest unknown ever, but like everything he did in the ring reminds you of like a wrestler.
Right.
Like the way he takes the turnbuckles, the way he sells on the ropes, the way he runs the ropes, the way he bumps. It's like there's a different flow.
Right.
Sometimes I've wrestled like that. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but then sometimes I don't. Like
And sometimes you're just going through the motions.
I'm a guy who wrestles, like, and sometimes has nice moments, but Tommy was actually like a wrestler. He was fun to train with. I learned a lot from him too. A lot of selling stuff. I think I did a little bit better job selling back then, but I think I'm still all right at it.
Yeah. So you go through a couple of years, you're training and stuff. When you first start doing shows, are you using the Mike Foster name right away, or what are you doing?
Yeah. They
So it's always been
It only took me 7 months before they started using me.
putting you on shows. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my first 2 shows were Battle Royals. Actually, my first Battle Royal was Scotty 2 Hotty's last match before he finally went to WWE.
Got signed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. At least for me.
For sure.
Yeah, they gave me the. It was funny. They gave me the Mike Foster name, and as you can just see with the old match you guys have on me, I came out to the Men at Work song. And I was a good guy for. I hated being a good guy too.
How long were you? How long were you doing the babyface thing?
A little over a year. It was funny.
Just go out there and bump kid kind of thing.
Yeah, and they wanted me to be, to try and, work the crowd and all that stuff. But after a little more than a year, Tony comes up to me and he was really, really cool about it. He's like, "Hey, just want to tell you that we like the way you're going. Like your work's solid. You're getting better. We really like the effort you're putting into it." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, is there a problem? Because I knew something was up.
Right. There's definitely a butt coming.
And
right.
He's like, "Yeah, the crowd really doesn't.
They just don't like you, man."
I'm like, "All right." I'm like, "What do you need me to do?" And they're like, "Well, we were talking. Do you want to try being a bad guy?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely. at that point, I'm like, I'll do it.
Yes.
I'll do anything.
Yes.
Just don't get rid of me, please.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to do all right. And I went out. I remember Derek, Redemption. Sorry. He, as I was getting ready to go up behind the curtain, he could tell I was nervous, and he's always been a great veteran.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, just act all pissed off, okay?" I'm like, "All right."
Yeah, that's pretty solid advice. Like,
And I actually remember an old Steve Austin thing when he was describing his character. He said, "What I try and do is be more myself and just amplify it to 10." So I was like, "All right, I'm just gonna
take all the shitty parts of my personality."
Yeah, I'm just gonna. And outside of wrestling, I had quite a few years where I was an angry person.
Right.
I would let people know about it more often. So I just tried to be him. And I thought the match went pretty good. The local crowd turned on me. That was back when we'd get like 150 to 180
people on a
every
reg.
month in
easy on the reg.
in the building 19 or the whatever.
Yeah, I was to say it's not the auction hall. This is
And I come out from behind the curtain, and Tony and Joe has a big smile on his face, and Joe goes, "Yeah, you're never ever being a babyface.
yeah.
Again, you're done. That was way too good." So.
And then from then on,
And then how I got my...
I was gonna say, how the Australian thing come into play?
Well, because I'm really from Australia.
Of course.
Well, but
What made you think that you should use that in your...
You can tell by the flag that he brings out.
Exactly, yeah, the
obviously.
flag, my last name. I mean, well, so anyways, so they're all in right before, they're like, "Oh, we're going to put you in the show for the first time." So I'm like, "Oh, cool." It's like, "We got to come up with a character because, your name just doesn't work." I'm like, "Okay." And so like, "Well, do you have any kind of real specialty thing?" And I'm like, "Not really." So like, "Well, how about we make you a foreign guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So they're like, "Well, you're too short to be a Russian, and you're not." And there's like,
I love the way that they have it broken down.
oh, I know, and there's there's white and black people at the table, so it was kind of funny how this comes around. They're like, "Well, you're not black, so you can't be from Africa." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, like solid choice.
So they're like, "And you can't
Someone
be
should
Japanese."
what is his name?
Quang.
Quang, yeah. I guess
Well, they're
that
like, "You
works.
can't be Japanese, you can't be Chinese, something." Okay. They're like, "You're too, you don't really, you're not super white, so you can't be a German." So I'm like, "Okay." So Redemption just said, "Hey, would you want to be an Australian?" I'm like, "Sure, I guess so."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can you think of any Australian names?" I'm like, and all I just thought of was Foster's for beer. So like, that's it. You're going to be Mike. Actually, they said Mick Foster, but they called me Mike a couple times.
And it just stuck.
And I'm like, and my first name is Michael. So
It works then.
yeah, it's like, all right, that's an easy name to be then.
Yeah.
So
boom, Thunder from Down Under, Mike Foster is born.
well, the Mike Foster was born.
Okay.
Actually, Bobby Cruz was ring announcing at this point. This is like a year. So I'm 2 years in. I've been a bad guy for a year now. Like the match before the main event sometimes, or I'm leading off the show, and they're putting me with the people that are coming outside of the company, but I don't remember half of them, but they were coming in with reputation, so I have to wrestle all these guys. And I thought we were doing well, so I was feeling my oats, and I said, I don't want to just be Mike Foster. I want to like add a title to my name, and I don't want to come out to this song anymore if I'm going to be a bad guy. And they're like, "No, because it shows you're from Australia."
I was like, no.
So
listen.
So a month or two goes by, and I'm not getting anywhere. So and I can't really think. All I can think of is like the generic Iron Mike Foster, or Mighty Mike Foster, and all that stuff. I'm like, doesn't really work. So of all things, my older brother was getting married, and his wife was reading something out of a bridal magazine. I just remember the last sentence. It was, something's going to make with this wedding dress on, it's going to make any groom to be act like her personal Thunder from Down Under. I'm like, oh my God,
There it is.
It.
There it is.
I was a fan of Thor, the Thunder God,
Right.
And my favorite song of all time is Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Mind you, an Australian band. Mind you, they formed when I was born in 1973.
So
How crazy is
it
that?
just all is.
So yeah, and I'm like immediately, I can use Thunderstruck, and I pitched that to Tony and Joe, and they're like, absolutely not. I was just like, come on. So they put, I win the interstate strap for a second time. I have a really good match.
It's a good chance I'm one of those little kids out there high-fiving you, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that was when I was
a good guy.
Yeah. Hey, the music guy. And and then I'm getting sidetracked. I forget who I wrestled, but I beat him for the strap, and then I beat Jose. Yes, that's right.
Jose, yeah.
Yeah, for the interstate strap. And then I just remember grabbing the mic from Bobby Cruz and saying, from this day forward, you're going to introduce me as the Thunder from Down Under, Michael Foster. Do you understand me?
Joe's in the back with his hands on his head.
And I put the mic, and then he does it. And the winner of this match and and he did it. So I'm like, sweet. Well, I still had the same, I come from a land down under.
It's still the same song. Yeah.
So I get behind the curtain, and Joe's like, or not Joe, I'm sorry, Tony was just like, one of the only times he was ever mad at me. He's like, what the hell? I told you, I don't want that name. You're just Mike Foster. That name is stupid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right. But without discussing it, the ring announcer did it a second time.
Just kept calling you that, yeah.
Just kept doing it.
That's one way to get it done. You got to shoot it on the
truth
promoter.
Be told, I kind of said, hey, please do that for me. And he did. So,
till it sticks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, after the show, we all went out to eat, and Tony's like, that's the name kind of work. It kind of works. He's like, because you think of it, why we were against you having it is you think Thunder from Down Under should be a really big guy,
right?
And you're not. But then you come out and you're screaming at the top of your lungs, and you're acting like you can knock anybody out, and it's like everybody in there is like, I got to punch this guy right in the face,
right?
And he's like, so we're gonna go with it. I'm like. And I just convinced him. I'm like, can you please? And a couple shows after that, the music switch went down, the switchboard.
Yeah.
So they had to load up a bunch of music, and I did have the proper CD for them. But I talked to Pavo, and Pavo actually Joe Pavo went on a limb.
Shout out to Joe Pavo.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Joe, because you got that song on for me. So he put Thunderstruck on, and then finally Tony goes, that really does work. I'm like, thank you.
Damn it. Why didn't you agree before?
So, finally, that paved the road to me, running that gimmick into the ground.
It's a character that's stayed with you till today.
They wanted to change me. I don't know if it was Steve Ricard. It might have been, but somebody took over, and it was somewhere in year 7 or 8, and I was.
So this is probably during the Ricard and Jamie when it was when it split, when one of them was running Yankee and one was running South Coast,
something like that. But no, it was a little after that. They kind of reunited, and I was at a point. It was right before things really got bad, but I was really doing well, and I was really doing well.
Hitting your stride.
Yeah, and I'd been hitting my stride for a little while, actually. But they wanted to put me in black sweatpants and a wife beater shirt, and have me do a rap gimmick with some other guy that I barely knew.
That's so odd.
And I know, I'm like, and on top of that, tried to start off being faces, and I'm like.
No, I'm guessing they didn't come up with this gimmick because they discovered that you were good at freestyle rapping.
No, I don't know.
In the locker room, just kicking freestyles.
No,
changing your tights.
When it was pitched to me, it was completely out of the blue because I'm like, why would?
What about me? Screams hip hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Other than maybe because I had a little bit better hair back then and more of it. But I had no idea why they wanted to do that to me. So, and I. Said no to a few other things and definitely got on his bad side. But
right, because it looked like you didn't want to do business.
No, and so then for the next 2 years after that, he really went out of his way to shit all over me for the most part.
Really, that's how you.
Yeah, I took like a 2-year hiatus at one point because wrestling was getting so ridiculously
Drama filled,
and it really seemed like it was biased. Like he had problems with the old guard, and I don't know if it's because I said no a couple of days. He also wanted to put me in a dunk tank, and I'm like, I don't have $240 to spend on my fucking boots if they get ruined. Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm trying to raise a family. I'm trying to, I'm trying to work. Back then, I'm working like 60 hours a week and still trying to. I was still going to practice.
To do practice
I was still
and
doing
do
shows, and he just started taking away all the road shows. I went from doing like 85, 90 shows a year to like only the local shows and the ones where half the time you're not getting any pay.
Right.
So it's like, what the hell? And for no reason. Like I was like main eventing some of the stars and
then out of nowhere,
or doing like working with like 3 major veterans that were still getting it done, like to open the shows. So
yeah.
I had a fairly prominent role, and it just disappeared for I don't know why. And even like some of the veterans, I'll thank you, Brickhouse and Ashworth, and I know Derek at times spoke up and said like, why isn't Foster on these shows?
Right.
And it got. So when that happened and my workload, I had to switch jobs. I switched moving companies, which that was a mistake that we'll talk about some other time. And worked for some absolutely awful people that were not. I got lucky. I had jobs that were before family life. I had bosses that did not care.
Right.
If I took a lot of time off for wrestling, and even when I did get more commitments, I had bosses that were cool about it, but these people weren't, and they made it incredibly tough to wrestle, and I just got burnt out mentally, and I'm like, I gotta stop. I thought I was completely done, too. I was like 33, 32.
Let's rewind a little bit. We'll talk about it because you're talking about when Steve took over,
Yeah,
and all that. We'll go back to a little bit to the Joe Eugenio stuff you were talking about before. Like, you guys were drawing an average like 150, 200 people a show with no names, or more with when you would bring names in.
Like the PAL would sit over 200 people when it was full. It was nice.
Now, how many? We seen the match with George The Animal Steele and stuff. You said that you've got to work with a lot of other guys. Who are some of the other guys you've gotten to work with?
Tony Atlas. I wrestled Tito Santana. Wrestled with the Bushwhackers quite a few times. I wrestled the Chris Hamrick.
Yeah,
that was a disaster. But he tagged with R-Truth, who was Kid Quick at the time.
Yep.
And
was that the Bank Street Armory?
Was it the Bank Street Armory? No, that was a different armory. That was somewhere else. That was in an unfamiliar place. But
so I feel like I remember seeing Chris Hamrick and K Quick tagging for some reason, like as a fan. Remember, it might not have been the Bank Street Armory, but for some reason I thought it was.
It was me and Brickhouse versus those two.
Yeah. I got not here, but at my house I have a whole tote of old VHS tapes. There's a bunch of old Yankee shows in there. I got to pull them out sometime. Take a look around, see what I can find. Now,
I wrestled the Patriot. That's true. That was a fun match too. Some of these guys were really.
What was the deal with Chris Hamrick? Speaking of the Bank Street Armory right here.
All right. Well,
so I want to get into it. What happened with Hamrick?
So it's me and Brickhouse versus him and R-Truth. And
look at you as a spry young gentleman.
I know.
Over that top rope with ease.
I know. I'm gonna try and do a move I did way back. Oh, and there's my fountain top haircut.
Oh, I love it. That's a man bun before man buns were a thing.
Absolutely. So he comes in. He wasn't there for when in the beginning. He was late getting to the show or something. So me and Brickhouse are talking. Just not even talking wrestling, just talking the truth. Brickhouse did most of the talking.
Yeah.
That usually happens.
Right.
But
I love Brickhouse.
Truth was, and I'm going to give a shout out to him. I mean, we'll probably never meet, but he was a great guy. Like super cool. Like,
right. Yeah.
Absolutely one of the coolest guys I've ever met.
Laid back and stuff.
Or in that stature, like some guys.
Right. Yeah.
But he was really cool. even after the whole shebang. So Hamrick comes in and he just starts. He tells us right away. I wrestled Kevin Kelly too.
That's another name. Is it? Yeah.
Oh my God! This is Oh my God! Yeah, I win this match.
Oh, all right.
That's a funny story too. If we're gonna blow some kayfabe.
Yeah,
Anyways,
no big deal. Let it slip out a little.
So Hamrick comes in. I'm not gonna bump. I'm sore. I've been working so much. And mind you, I know some people knew him, but I didn't get to watch ECW.
Right. So
and not like he was there for very long. But
you're like, who the hell's this? Yeah, he really wasn't there very long.
But
you were like, who the hell's this cat?
So he starts calling a match, and I got to be honest, I don't even remember a lot of the match, but it was it really was a bad match called in the back, and it was uncharacteristic that Brickhouse, because sometimes even like to those guys, Brickhouse would be like, that ain't fucking happening. Like, I'm gonna come in and do that, but
right. Brickhouse would drop knowledge on them. David Cash coming out here.
Oh, nice. I like tagging with Davey early in my career.
Fat Nick right there.
Yep,
that's me right there in the crowd.
Nice.
That's so funny.
So he
yeah, I was wearing a Taz shirt.
So right before we get out to the ring, like, I wanted to change up a little at the beginning. So this was going to be me and Truth, and I said, hey, before we tag out, we're going to do the thing that Hamrick called, but like, how about we do this, and this? He was like, yeah, that really sounds great, and it was to put him over too.
Right? Yeah.
I was taking like an extra 2 bumps, and he goes, and Hamrick just like walks over to the two of us, and he's like, you guys stick to the script. I'm the veteran. I'm the
and just flipping out. Yeah.
And I was even thinking to myself, like, dude, I know who.
I know who he is. I don't know who the hell you are.
Like, I almost wanted to be like, why don't you tell him to go fucking pound
right? Yeah.
Like that. So we get up to the ring, and he starts off with Brickhouse, and he just doesn't sell at all for a few seconds, and they start off, and he's slow and whatever, and tags into quick, and Brickhouse, cuts him off real quick, tags me in, I get quick back over, and then he tags in Hamrick, and then like they go to do a double T move, and Hamrick won't do it, and he just kind of like drags me up, and he tries to. He does some kind of weird submission hold I didn't know, and just like half-assed it, and like he's not even trying. He's not even going for crowd reaction. The crowd's like dying.
Right. Just getting quiet.
For some reason, I was just all wound up inside. Like, I just didn't like this guy, and I don't know. I probably was. Holy shit. I don't know why.
That holy shit was because Davey Cash did a random flip dive.
I know.
I'm sorry, continue.
Davey should have made TV somehow. Jesus, he did some great stuff when he was younger. So, he said, and we're in that hole for like 20 seconds, and then he finally, he kind of, and it's not a move that I was ever going to submit to. So
right,
and then he does a single Boston Crab, and now the crowd's like not even reacting, and he's just completely full of himself. And he mouthed off to me, which he was probably just working the gimmick, but I took it personal for some reason. And he starts to. Well,
you were already pissed in general, and just he had a bad attitude getting into it. So I mean, it's totally understandable seeing why you would be.
And so he starts to put me in a Boston Crab, and as he's getting cocky. With all my might, I grab his ankles and I jerk it, and he like stumbles to his knees, and I was able to get up real quick.
Yeah.
And I turned him over into a sharpshooter, and I fucking
just leaned back.
I know I fucking stretched him, and I'm like,
right,
woo!
Shooting it on him.
Oh yeah. And he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, take that, motherfucker. And then I fucking literally drag him over to the thing, and I'm not the biggest guys, but I fucking drag
him. Yeah.
And he plops in the corner, and then I tag fucking Brickhouse in. I just fucking boom right in the chest. Oh, and and I don't think I really interacted with him too much more in the ring. And I remember I kind of remember hearing it, but Brickhouse loves to tell me, he goes, I start working him in the corner. He goes, "What the fuck happened with your friend?" And he's like, "I think you pissed him off. That's what happened." And then I went in with Quick a couple of times. I think Hamrick did something to pin me, but he definitely, if he was going to cash in a receipt, he didn't do it then. So.
Right.
He came at me in the back.
I was gonna say, was there an altercation in the locker room about it, or
and Brickhouse? He loves this one too. We're sitting there, and I'm just fucking worked up, and Brickhouse is like, he wasn't like being as demonstrative, but he's like, "That's fucking great. You fucking showed him. Fuck him. Fuck this." But now he's coming in the back, and Brickhouse wasn't backing down, but he kind of like. I had to man up, but I wouldn't stand up. I was just sitting there, and I wasn't looking at him. I knew he was looking at me, but I was like just looking away from him. But,
right, yeah.
Like I'd be like this.
Right, yeah.
So he's like, "I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing, but where I come from, we don't work the way you do." And I finally just look at him like, "Well, where I'm from, we don't work like you do."
Yeah.
And Brickhouse was just like, you could just see him like,
popping for you.
And then like, it was funny. And then it was Tony's second stint with us, and then somebody else was there too. And they're like, it's not like we were ever going to get into a fight, but like Hamrick was just like just looking like he was going to start addressing me, and Tony like kind of cut him off. They never used him again after that. And then it was funny, like a bunch of the veterans, like Kahuna, Redemption. Maybe I shouldn't use their names in case they want to be good friends with the guy. But anyways, a few more came over and like, "Man, that was awesome. That guy's a dick, and I can't stand with some of these
I've
guys."
heard some negative stuff about him too, from other guys that have worked him at shows, and it's just like,
and they're just like, I fucking hate when because. To be honest, a lot of the veterans come in and they're pretty cool guys,
right?
And even if they have to do a squash match, they're not like dicks about it, so.
Right?
Which is cool, but he was just such a dink, and they were all just like, "He's a fucking jerk." Like, I'm glad somebody did something to him, and
he's really not that big of a name either in ECW.
Yeah, exactly. Like a year later, I saw like an old ECW show. And I'm like, "Hey, there he is."
That's that guy.
And he looked terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what he thinks of me. I really don't. Even if I walked out this door, if he was there, whatever,
I wouldn't even recognize him.
Now, earlier we were watching you versus George the Animal Steele. You mind touching on that a little bit? I know you.
I was in my third year, and we were a main event. So I really just he went out of his way to squash me, and it was a long squash, and like I tried to, like he even told me in the back, like,
so he just beat you around, basically.
Yeah, like he wouldn't, like he would be like, like I want you to. He could tell, like I wasn't in the back. He could tell I didn't really want to just take it. So I was like, well, I can cut you off here and just get you back over, and like he wouldn't sell anything, and he almost broke my nose. Like the second time he ran my head into the turnbuckle. He like most of the guys, they do the big wind up,
right,
and
yeah.
Boom.
And
he took me, like I was close to the buckle. I wasn't expecting to take it. I thought he was just going to turn me around.
Right.
Forearm, rope, whatever the case may be. But he shoved me by the back of the head,
face first,
full forward. Yeah, right nose, like right, crushed it. Nose was all bleeding. I was just like, what an asshole. I probably shouldn't have been thinking that way. Maybe.
Right, but
that's why I didn't work stars all the time. But after that, I mean, the only thing that happened to that is I didn't really sell the chicken wing move.
Right.
And he didn't appreciate that, and he addressed it in the back, but it was like...
It was just whatever at that point.
Yeah, I was like, like, it was just a bad match, like, whatever.
Like, hey,
and I just
beat the shit out of me for 20 minutes. Like,
yeah.
Screw off.
I don't know if I had enough clout to, but I remember... asking the promoter at the time, like, "Hey, I don't want to work him anymore."
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
That's
like,
I don't want to.
Now let's talk a little bit about the because we've had a few guys on here that were around when Joe was stepping down from Yankee and Steve was taking over. We talked a little bit about how like Steve was booking Yankee and Jamie was booking South Coast. You were a South Coast guy?
I stayed on Yankee at first, and then they took me at South Coast, and it It was all right at first. I mean, we didn't have as many road shows as Yankee did, but I was still going on, making some decent money when we go long, outside of Fall River, New Bedford. I liked wrestling Andy Jax, by the way. We're watching myself and Andy Jax right now. Andy Jax was really fun to work with.
No, it's funny because a lot of those guys, PAL would draw these huge crowds.
Yeah.
A lot of times you guys weren't getting paid at those home shows because a lot of that was going back to the building, covering the training and all that jive. But you were a Yankee and then you went to South Coast eventually?
Yeah. Yes. But, I mean, it was a fair trade-off because, to be honest, after the first 5 months, I know they charged other people, but I didn't get charged anymore.
Right, yeah.
And then when I got a bit better, I was asked to, especially once Brickhouse took over training, they had me, like, help out some of the younger guys, like, be, like, the trainer's assistant or whatever, so.
Which is like a bump dummy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But I loved running through spots. Like, again, I started out so late, so it was just like, give me all the time in the ring. And,
right, yeah. You
I
just
worked
spend
with,
all the time in there.
Yeah, when you have an odd number, I'd be the guy going twice, or like,
right.
I didn't mind, if people weren't matching up, I'd go 2 or 3 times with different people. So, but anyways, when you go on the road, like some of these gyms, especially when you're drawing 6, 7, even 800-900 people, which was awesome.
Which were some of those shows back then. Like,
yeah, I mean, going to some of these gyms was absolutely great. I'd be $50 to $80, and they give you food.
Right, you're fed.
So it's like fairly do back-to-back weekends or back-to-back nights. Even it's like shit.
Make a couple $100.
Yeah,
on a weekend, just going out there to wrestle for
and have 10, a great time.
Minutes. Right, yeah, you're enjoying yourself. Like, now, who were your road buddies?
Going out drinking and stuff like that.
You just go to wrestling and drink.
Exactly. I'm not a big bar guy anyway.
Yeah.
So I rode a lot with Brickhouse and just different people. Brickhouse was a constant because he had car issues at the time. So
always with you.
And it was, we got along really well. So
it's hard not to get along with Brickhouse. Exactly. He's such a good dude. And I love watching, because Brickhouse is retired now, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's running House of Bricks and stuff. But, he still shows up to some indie shows. And I love seeing him at shows. And, I've caught him, where I come around the corner. And he's, sitting down. He's, schooling 2 kids.
Yeah.
About, what they did wrong in the match and what they should have done and stuff like that. I love seeing that stuff. I love that.
To bring up an earlier point, he is a wrestler.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's not a guy wrestling. He was born out of his mom a wrestler.
Right, yeah.
Jeez.
David too. David's for sure a wrestler.
Yeah.
And
Devin.
Devin's finding his way. He's on his way there.
David has probably more of his dad's mindset, but Devin has so many especially with Teach is gonna slap me around. But once in a while he didn't act as especially when he was in his mean streak mode, he'd be more of a business-like wrestler.
Yeah,
He reminded me a lot of Ted DiBiase.
Right.
But when Brickhouse was putting on, he would give it the extra pizzazz and the flair. There was just so many motions that
he
would
much
flow
movement
into motion after motion.
Right.
And I'm just talking about the selling, not the moves. The selling was just.
And you see a lot of that in Devin.
Devin. When Devin's feeling his oats,
when he's hitting
his stride, he just flows like his dad does, and it's really fun to watch for me, at least.
I talked to him recently, and he's hitting more trainings and stuff like that. He'll find his spot because his last name's Baker and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like David's the complete business of Baker, and Devin is the flair. Of,
right, David is ready to go to work.
Yeah,
and Devin's having fun, and you can kind of see it.
I'll give a shout out to Dave. There was my 2-year hiatus. I told you. I come back. I'm 34, 35, and I haven't bumped. I haven't taken a lot of physicality stuff, and I was a little unsure of myself. I was just the first couple of matches I was a little rusty. They were like, "Oh, nice job," but I know they were just being nice to me, and they did. They didn't want me to leave again. So
yeah.
Brickhouse finally puts me against David. This is back actually when I joined Jamie's promotion, and Brickhouse was helping running it.
This was Alliance Championship Wrestling.
I think so. Yeah. And Jesus, that match was going all right, and David popped me in the corner. He chopped me, probably the hardest chop I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
for a second, for like 2 or 3 seconds, it hurt so bad. I was like keeling over, thinking I almost wanted to roll right out of the ring and be like, I quit. Like I made a mistake coming back to this lifestyle, and he opened me up and chopped me again. It felt the exact same, but I got lucky. I don't know, something hit me, and I was just like, oh, okay, I remember all this kind of pain.
Right, yeah, this is kind of familiar.
On. Yeah, so in a way, it helped wake me up and get me back into my mindset, because, you know, I'll pat myself in the back for a second. I've taken some beatings and finished Matt,
and haven't said, no
and I'll come back the next day. So,
right.
But that first chop, holy shit, it humbled me pretty well.
Everybody in this room has been humbled by a chop
from
David Baker.
I mean, and you feel them all, like, because he puts into it. But that first one, when it was the official first chop back, it. Oh my God!
I had the battle wounds for weeks after that. As a reminder. When you were taking time off, what brought you back? What did you?
Brickhouse. He called.
Did he have to convince you?
Yeah, I mean, I consider him. I consider us friends. I really do. Like, he was at my wedding. Like, he's right.
You're not just acquaintances.
You know, I've had, especially before wrestling, I had a lot of people that were not. I hung around with people that weren't very supportive, and so I was kind of a loner for a while. And Brickhouse was one of the first people in my adult life that was like, hey, you can do this, or hey, this is where you belong, and stuff like that. So, and he knew I got burnt out, so he didn't, the first few times he called, it was just to be like a friend, and then all of a sudden, like, after like 8 or 9 months, he's like, oh, mate, I can, I was getting a show or two, and I turned him down forever, and then finally he's just like, mate, I got a battle royal. Can you? We're trying to get 30 people, and we got like 26. We need fillers. Come on. So I did it, and then they convinced me to do another battle royal, and then a couple singles match, and then the David match, and then like after the David match, I remember going to him like right after the show. Before he would ask me, because he'd be like, "Mate, can I book you for the next show?" And I'd be like, I don't know. And then he'd have to call me like the next week, like, "Mate, are you gonna do it?" And so, but I went up to him after the David match and was like, "Yeah, you can book me for the next show." And he's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick around for a little while again."
Before your hiatus, do you remember your last match before all that time off?
No, because I actually missed a couple of matches, which probably didn't help. But again, that. The second moving company I worked for, they were really, really uncaring about your life in general.
Time
but
off and
like your wrestling was like
and it's not easy with the weekends too.
Yeah, so like I got scheduled on like 12-hour moving days, in like you'd be in Connecticut, and I'm like, guys, like I've already worked like 40-something hours this week. Like, can I get like I told you at the beginning of the week I'm wrestling Saturday, and they're like, oh. They didn't care, so I chose to do that and not work. And then I'm a little archaic. I had no cell phone at the time, so like I'm trying to like use landlines to get a hold of Ricard, and it just didn't work out. So, like I said, it just I don't even remember, because I blew off matches, and I was wrestling people I was unfamiliar with, like newcomers. Like, oh, you're gonna work with that guy who's been in. And he had like no training program back, at least back then. He probably does now, but wrestling guys have been wrestling for 2 weeks, so I didn't know who the hell they were. Getting left off of all the road shows, so that's part of it. When I'm like, you know what,
all done.
Out. Yep, I'm all done. I'm not gonna take his shit. I don't,
So you're out for 2 years. Brickhouse gets you back in.
Yep.
You start working on the reg. You're wrestling in like the soccer center in New Bedford. Is that where a lot of those shows were going down?
Yes, the first 2 battle royals, and then I had a singles match there. I forget who I wrestled against too. Somebody I didn't know. And
I'm gonna say Chris Cruz.
No, not at all.
Damn, I was just guessing because I knew he was there at the time.
Yeah, he was. God, he was so different.
See, we wrestled for ACW back then too, but we left before you had come in.
Okay.
Or right around the same time. I feel like we may have been on like one show.
I'm really psyched that I'm wrestling Cruz, because I've been a fan of his for like 4 or 5, 6 years. He doesn't even know when I was a fan of his.
That's so you watch him like.
Of it, I'm a fan of you guys. Why the hell have we never worked?
I don't know.
Ever.
I don't know. It's so strange. It's like I feel like I've had like one match with Redemption too. Like I feel like we don't get mixed in with a lot of the other guys for some reason. We get put with a lot of the same people a lot.
Yeah.
It's very odd. But hell yeah, man! I would totally. I'm totally down for a friendly grappling session.
Absolutely.
But maybe after the podcast we'll move the couch back a little bit. We got some room in the middle of the room here.
Yeah, I got the belt in the back.
Yeah. All right.
I can always DQ myself.
There's plenty of wrestling space in the Mack Mansion for that to go down. So nothing past 9:30 though.
So you work in the New Bedford shows all the time. What were some of your memories from those ACW shows? Because I know those shows drew pretty well for a while. Like those Soccer Center shows were packed.
Yeah, they were. You know, again, I only worked a couple battle royals and the singles night was it's like 270 people there. It was pretty packed. You know, and it's not like the biggest place in the world. So
right? Yeah. So
it's
it's jam packed.
Like,
yeah.
all right. So, and then even when we first. What was that? We didn't always go to that VFW. What was the first place we went to?
The Mattapoisett spot?
Maybe. I don't know. But there was another place we went to before we went to the
VFW in Fairhaven.
Yeah. But even the first, those matches drew all right. And then the beginning of the VFW shows, like...
those drew well, too.
You know, like one show, there was 180 people packed in that
VFW hall, yeah.
I mean, it was awesome, too.
Right.
Like,
and they were hot 180.
Yeah.
It just slowly died down from there, though. You know, like.
Well, I think the shows got too saturated, and I'll be honest. It didn't help me in the back sometimes. I know it pissed off Jamie at one point. We definitely didn't see eye to eye on some things as I was vocal in the back. Although Candido is a great guy.
Yeah.
Like and most of my matches with him were, I thought, really. Really good.
And if you need to book a Disney package, he's the guy that you can see.
All right.
He'll send you to Florida just real quick.
But Ricard did this in the beginning. He saved himself by just doing the smarter thing, I guess, and hiring stars and getting people in that way. But like the shows would be starting, bell time 7:30. You're starting at 8:15.
Right,
Shows
it's just
are
those
running
little
past
things like that.
10:30,
Right.
And so like
it's 11:15 and the main event's still out there and stuff. And it's just I know what you're saying.
And some guys they just you can't treat every match like it's your WrestleMania moment. And I know that probably pisses some people off, but
right, sometimes you need to know your spot on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're the first match after intermission, and that's not your, get the match over in 6 minutes. Don't go 20.
Right.
That just sets a bad tone. And then you can't have shows,
your match runs long, the next guy's match
an
runs long.
independent show, and you can't have all the flair and the money spent on you like everything else.
Right.
You take a show longer than 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Most.
Your main eventers don't get seen because people are leaving.
Right.
And
half the crowd's already gone.
Yeah, and then the people who are there, they only have half the energy they once had.
They're
so
screaming
it's
for 3 hours.
And then if it's, you run the risk of if the matches all start looking the same, people just like, you almost turn the fans cynical. So I think those are big problems, and they just didn't get addressed. And
I guess it ultimately led to the decision that happened recently. Candido shutting down Whaling City Wrestling. No more WC. I don't know who knows, if anybody even knows about it. I know he made
out 2 weeks ago.
I know he made a post about it online, and I don't know how many people had seen it, but Whaling City Wrestling usually run out of the VFW in Fairhaven. Been running there for forever now at this point, and no longer. They're closed down. How do you feel about that?
It's too bad. As I just said that, like I thought Jamie was overall a good promoter. He had a lot of good ideas. Had some stuff I didn't agree with, but
I mean that's just kind of all promoters, though, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, just I guess how I'm trying to say it is like I thought because like I started a little bit before him, and I was like I saw him start and train and everything like that, and we would work some matches and stuff, and I just thought I could. I don't know if I'd have more weight with my talk, or if I just thought like we could bounce ideas off each other, but I didn't realize like he was more of a boss and whatever. But
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't like seeing it gone. Like, it let a lot of guys work. There's a lot of good story angles, and I just thought, I guess I wish he would have tried to take the place outside of that area once in a while more. I don't know if he tried to, or it's tough. He's a dad, and he's got other stuff going on. So
It's tough to find a new town and then to go out and promote and flyer that town.
exactly. So it's really
Me and Training Number One are just about to make a return there and win their tag team gold. That was the game plan, but they shut down. So
When he says we had a planned return, we were supposed to be in the Gold Rush Rumble as one entrant together as a team, because I always find that funny. So I suggest that to promoters when they try to book us for battle royals.
yeah. It's a good idea.
It's like, hey, it's
really
both
is
of
a
us,
good
by the
idea.
way.
Yeah.
Because I figure if one of us comes out, the other one's going to be there. Ruins the surprise.
Yeah.
We come out at the same time. Hey, look, it's them. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, it's an extra. It just provide the more the merrier in those kind of things,
especially in
Like,
a battle royal, because nobody's ever really, hardly ever does anybody have like all the 30 guys.
yeah, they did a
Do you
good
know how
job.
cramped an indie locker room is when there's a battle royal on the show?
I know. I learned later. After I got over 35, I realized when we're gonna have those big ones, and it's just like, I'm gonna get there late, and I'm gonna make sure I'm pre-changed.
Right, yeah, I already got your singlet on, and yeah.
I got my pads on. All I got to do is throw on the pants and the boots, and I'm all set, and I can do that in the car. So, I was going to do the Gold Rush Rumble this year because I know they always want, even if they get 32 by chance or whatever.
Right, yeah, they're always
don't care.
they're
They're
just
like
trying to
put everybody in, and that crowd still kind of knows me a little bit, so it's a decent pop for them.
a lot of those fans have been the same fans,
Yeah.
for all the years that they've been running that VFW.
And they being a parent, I guess. I don't know if that's that. Maybe I don't want to sound too smug, but I did notice sometimes, like when they had the bad drunk crowds, it would be tough to get like families in there or anything like that,
right.
because like they want to. First of all, they're going to a VFW, so they know
Right,
there's
that's already
going on.
right, and at the VFW the beers are like $1.
Yeah, and
So
then-
people are getting sloshed.
Yeah. But even then, like, sometimes, like, just randomly, it'd be nice to go out there and there's, like, 125 people, and you're like,
Right.
all right, a little bit of an old school crowd, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
vocal and stuff. But even then, like, it didn't help when they would go start a show 8:17 and it's booked for 8:30. It's like,
Right.
come on, guys, let's go. So,
A lot of times, man, like people don't realize that indie shows run late, and it's just kind of it just kind of happens, and
yeah.
and guys don't get there on time. The people in the first match, so like fans have no idea about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want that. When you show up to a concert, you expect it to start. It's supposed to start at 7:30. You expect it to start at 7:30.
Exactly.
And sometimes it does. Most times it does, and most of these shows you gotta start at the right time, but you occasionally, man, you get that show that starts at 8:00. It's got 10 matches on it, and it doesn't get over until 11:30, and you're like, whoa.
I know we've had our differences. I don't mean to say it like this, but until I worked for Ricard, and it seemed like a lot of different not a lot. I haven't wrestled for a lot of promotions, but the promotions I worked for after that, more often than not, they start late. Before that, if I worked for Yankee, or if I would do a show, I don't even remember their names, but I worked for 4 other guys here and there, and they were really strict about
This is the time we start.
and they would start at 7 a lot, which I thought made more sense too. So 7:00, you're out by 9:45. The show's
Right.
over by 9:45.
Right.
Like, boom, bang,
Stop
bam.
breaking
Yeah.
down the ring at 10:00, and you're out of there.
And the crowd, you didn't seem like you lost a lot of the crowd. And then again, like, they were strict about, the fillers were treated as fillers,
Right.
And then there's
They made sure people knew their spots. And,
the four matches that they want the meat in, those people got the meat. So that was like the incentive. Like you wanted to
work to that spot.
Yeah, start working for, the fourth most important match. That way you're getting more recognition. You get a couple extra bucks and stuff like that. So
now, what do you think it is that's changed? You think it's the generation of wrestlers? Like, you think it's like a millennials thing? Like, kids are everybody's just trying to get their shit in?
Well, that too. Especially the younger guys that come in, and I have no problem with this. They want to get noticed. I mean, there was a point in time where I wanted to get noticed.
Right.
So, I get that. As far as like the lateness goes, it probably is a generation, like, and
because a lot of people,
I think a lot of people in the end don't really. Respect is not the word. They don't value the crowd. Like, you got to value what they're coming to see. Like, maybe that's the fan in me still, but like when I watch other matches, like I try to watch it like a fan and not like one of the boys. And if you don't like what you see, you almost want to like make a mental note of it. I loved working with the Punisher back then. I'm sorry,
no, it's all good, man.
Me and Richie had a fun time together.
You're saying that you make a mental note of it if something's not working.
Yeah, exactly. Or like things you do different, or like
for sure. I've done shows where you see it and you're like, a lot of kids out there, they're popping for the funny stuff. Or you go out there and they're like, these are the fans that like noise. They like to hear the strikes. They like to hear the kicks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's for sure different kinds of fans going to shows, but
and that was another thing that Joe, when and a lot of the bookers he had, like, they would recognize, like, they would recognize too, like, if the crowd had so many families and kids, they'd be like, guys, this is more of a kid show tonight, so no gigging, no, keep the language to a minimum, all that other stuff. And I don't know, I don't think that's paid attention. It's hard to pay attention to that stuff. They were just, I don't know, maybe I just broke in with guys that were really
right.
That's why they were so successful,
right?
For so
because
long.
they
paid close attention to that kind of stuff.
Now, what do you think the biggest difference between a promoter like Joe, who would run these shows with hundreds of fans, and guys running shows now that you'll occasionally you get a house of 50 people?
Well,
part
of the problem now is there's just so many more people want to wrestle now, and
right.
And there's so many more indie shows, and you go to other. I don't go to a lot of independent shows outside of
the ones that you're working.
Yeah, because of other obligations. But what the few I have, like, I've gone to some ones where there's some young guys and they do some impressive stuff, but and they got good sized crowds, and again, it goes probably back to discipline. Like, start on time, be professional, like, put the crowd in front of yourself,
Right.
And I think when guys do put the crowd in front of themselves, they're better, like, because, that's half the reason why we're doing this. Not to sound too corny, but
maybe even more than half the reason.
Yeah, I mean, you like, I don't want to take the, you want to be out there doing it, but
right,
you also wrestling in front of absolutely nobody
sucks.
What the hell? Yeah, what are you doing out there? Although I did wrestle in front of 2 people once.
Where was that? Was there a snowstorm or something?
Like rainstorm.
Rainstorm.
It was a outside show. And it fucking poured, and for some reason they had like a little baby tent. It barely covered the ring and like maybe the first row. So, and it was pouring, so nobody was there. But most everybody stayed because the fan that was there was like an 8-year-old kid, and
right. And you guys were like,
and his mom was older, and so it was just like. I remember I worked with Ash, and everybody was doing like 5-minute special matches to get the hell out of there, which I don't blame him, but we were the main event, so I was just like, I bumped like 8 or 9 times. He's like, what the hell? We're calling it in the back. He's like, what the hell do you want to bump so much for? I'm like, what the hell?
That kid will be happy as hell, man. He's going to enjoy it.
Didn't drive 2 hours just to do nothing.
Right.
So I guess that maybe I'm part millennial.
Right, yeah. I got to go out there, take them bumps, kid.
Yeah.
But, so after... to me, it's kind of sad that I find it sad that WCW is gone.
Yeah, it definitely sucks.
For just as a fan, I used to love going to those shows, watching the shows, hanging out with all the guys. Like the way the bar was.
They got a lot of good workers out of there.
Right.
Like, I enjoyed working there most of the time.
I mean, hell,
I really did.
There's been a lot of guys that have wrestled in that building that have gone on to do other things.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Create names for themselves elsewhere and even locally. You know what I mean? Like, it's sad to see it go, and hopefully one day maybe James will make a big return.
That would
with
be nice.
'cause I know he's doing a lot of wrestling for Showcase and stuff. So it's probably hard being a dad, working and wrestling, you know what I mean? And then on top of promoting your shows.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy job, that's for sure. And it's another thing. With Joe and Tony, I mean, that was, like, they didn't have, well, if they had kids, you never ever heard of them.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Like, they were all about.
All business.
Yeah, it was, it seemed like after they ate breakfast, it was like, all right, wrestling was top of their mind. So
right now, it's because a lot of people have said this and that about Ricard on the show, but everybody always puts him over as a good businessman because he is.
I mean,
and
look at his
I
shows
feel like he
now.
got that drive from Joe, that same kind of mindset.
I just think, Joe was able to get more out of local wrestlers.
Right.
Ricard relies more on getting people in. But hey, if he's successful, I mean, who the hell am I to say?
Speaking of that, Hardy Boys at the BCC Auditorium sometime next month.
Brandon gets to work him. The
Devil's
Reject gets to work him.
Brandon Webb, the Devil's Reject, and Frankie Vane as the Devil's Doormen are taking on Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero.
I think I was there for the beginning of Frank, too.
Frankie Vane when he first started training?
Yeah.
Before he was jacked?
Yeah. He was a nice kid.
Still a nice kid.
God, I hated when he do that Finley roll to me. It felt like it
kill you,
crushed my ribs.
Yeah,
like, oh, you barely feel it. I'm like, I'm thinking bullshit. I barely feel it. I can barely breathe.
How did Brickhouse started running House of Bricks, and were you just in right away, just automatically?
Yeah, definitely.
And you just
how can I say no?
Right to Brickhouse.
The guy gave me my start. He got me back.
Right.
To do it. So I mean, yeah. How could I say no?
Now,
he came right up. He was like, "Mate, I'm starting my own company, and I want you there." Like, done.
Do you think Brickhouse has been successful in his transition from wrestler to promoter?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, for a while the shows kind of like started dying down a little bit, but I'll tell you, he gets some fantastic crowds at the Moose Lodge. The 3 times I've wrestled there. I mean, 2 of those shows have been packed.
My
So
personal
like,
favorite is the baseball field, just because the kid-wise, like, it's real kid-oriented shows, and they go nuts.
Right, those kids
are
bugging out.
A couple years ago, the first 3 or 4 years, probably 3 years, I was doing it for Brickhouse. It was I thought the crowds were bigger. Like the first couple shows I went to for him, they're big crowds. There was like almost 400 kids in one.
It's definitely dwindled down.
Yeah.
Now, and I think a lot of that has to do with some issues with the baseball, the baseball
which
field,
sucks.
and working with the Little League and stuff. And that's all bullshit drama, like behind the scenes stuff. Again, most stuff fans don't know that promoters have to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm trying to think. There was it's the October 15th. Who is your opponent announced?
Yes, Cruz.
Chris. Oh, so you are wrestling Cruz. Okay,
rematch with
I thought you were
Cruz.
just talking about in general that you were looking forward to wrestling Cruz. Now you say that you've been a fan of his longer than he realizes.
Well, when he was like, I'm not the most socialite guy in the world, so like in the locker room when all you young bucks were coming up, I I didn't talk to you guys a whole lot, more because like I don't know you, and
right?
everybody, you guys seem like you know each other, and like I don't know, I'm kind of a quiet guy,
right?
More often than not, so I didn't want to like force myself like, hey, I'm the veteran, you're gonna talk to me, like so. I just we were in different circles, but like I would watch him. I watched a lot of the matches because I don't like just shoot the breeze in the back. I just
you
sneak by the curtain and watch it. And I liked a lot of his mannerisms. I liked the way he worked in the ring. I was just like, wow, this kid. I like sometimes I watch matches and I'm like, wow, this guy's kind of. I would not mind paying to watch this guy wrestle. Like he'd be worth part of the money I spent to watch this show.
Now, I actually bumped into Cruz that night before the match, and he told me that he was looking to push you to your limits and maybe bring you back to you bring some of the oldness out of you. Well, not necessarily like that, but
the match hasn't even happened yet.
No, this is
he had one
the
match at the
rematch.
field.
Okay.
They're setting up for the rematch. I seen Cruz before the match, and he said that he was going to try to push you to your limits. Do you feel like he did during that match?
Are you just making this shit up?
No, I really talked to him.
happened?
Yeah, that really happened.
He didn't push me to the limits, but we're gonna have a couple of matches. I'll give him a few shots at the title. I don't care. Like we don't
Feel like he deserves it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't know. He did push me pretty. We got old school.
Okay.
We threw I think 10 or 11 chops all together in that match.
Yeah, it
too.
sounds like Cruz. He's very chop oriented sometimes.
Yeah, we were starting to pound each other a little bit, and he was, again, I like it because he, he just plays. That's the way he plays, and he doesn't take stuff personal. And it's like,
and
it's great.
You can thwap him back, and there's not going to be any complaints.
Yeah, so I'm looking for and he, again, I consider him a wrestler, so he knows like. We're going to wrestle again, so there's no reason to like go a half an hour and throw everything we absolutely have
right, because you guys know you're
that's
going to
go
again.
later,
right?
Let's get a quick point and we're going to do this. Let's do it right. And this is probably my last kick at the can. Like I'm 43 years old.
So you feel like this is your last run here at House of Bricks?
I wouldn't mind going a couple years, but I mean.
Just not on the reg kind of thing?
I don't know. I said that a few years ago. And
right, and here you are.
So,
yeah.
But, like, unless I can hold the title for the next couple of years, but, this is probably my last run as the champ.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no reason to and I don't think I appreciated the other two times I wore the main strap wherever I've worked.
Right.
Like, I just kind of
feel like this means more to you now, or
yeah, like I didn't like disrespect it, but I just felt like because we all know how this works, so it was just like
right, I'm still just me. I'm still just
doing
my thing.
I gotta have my matches, but now it's kind of like I gotta kind of be a little bit different,
right?
Like I gotta
represent yourself
up it a little bit,
right?
Kind
of thing.
So
now we're watching this right here on. It's you versus Chris Blackheart wearing genie pants.
He always wore genie pants.
Is he wearing a sash or is his ribs taped?
His ribs are taped.
Okay, I couldn't tell if that was like a Sabu sash.
No, and I think that was a legit thing too. Like,
it's like his ribs were actually hurt.
Yeah.
Now, why don't you work for Showcase?
More just time than
it's just
else.
not
like,
having the time.
I just cannot, and I can't.
Is it? I was going to say, is it because Blackheart's a madman?
No,
because he's for sure a madman.
I guess I like it. I always got along great with
me
him.
too. I'm not saying I don't.
He says he guessed because he never wrestled for Showcase.
Right,
that's why.
You don't realize that he's Chris Blackheart is a madman of a booker.
Oh, okay.
And that's not a bad thing entirely, but it's also not the best thing.
I also think Chris Blackheart's the man,
right?
But he's also a madman.
He is the madman. So this last run at House of Bricks, what do you think the future holds for you after wrestling?
God, I don't know. I'm definitely at a point in my life where I'm at a few different crossroads personally now. So,
personal and professional, you say, and kind of thing.
Yeah. So, like, I don't want to hang on too long. Like, I'm already moving slower and stuff, and in the ring. I'm just talking right now. So, and like, I don't want to get to the point where I'm really just they're booking me because they feel obligated to book me.
Right. You don't want that to get to that point.
Maybe I'll manage. I don't know. Like, weirdly enough, I kind of thought like maybe I could take a year off and be a ref.
Right. So you just thought about reffing?
Yeah,
That's kind of strange.
yeah, a little bit.
It's a little weird. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, would you ref at shows that you were wrestling on? So people would be like, "Hey, what?" Like, would you just be the special guest referee on all occasions?
I'd consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Now, would that be just to stay around all your friends and all the people you used to still get that experience? Like,
Well, I wouldn't
out
mind.
and-
I would do that as well, but I mean, I'd go to other shows. I know I wouldn't be getting rich doing ref work, but you know, you're getting money doing refing. So I mean, it'd be a chance to meet more people, watch more wrestling. Again, like going to part of the reason I don't go to new locker rooms and push myself a little bit more is like I can't. I don't mind working young guys that I know a little bit, so I can know what I'm up against or whatever. But I can't wrestle young guys that can throw me around a little easier. Like, what happens if I wrestle some? And a new promoter's not going to give a shit who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Doesn't
especially
know-
if he doesn't
know
know
the
me.
history. Yeah.
So I can't wrestle some 6'4", 260-pound dude that is looking to take it to the next level and says, "Oh, this guy is going to be my bump dummy." And Brickhouse, if he hears this, is probably going to be pissed that I said that. Wow, that guy fucking threw me halfway across the ring.
Big body
Holy shit.
slam.
But at the same time, like I don't want to like go into locker rooms and start fucking shooting on people I shouldn't. Like you don't know how that's gonna
Pulling
end.
the Chris
Even
Hamrick.
if I come out on top, like that's not the
You
it's the way to get.
You don't want to be the Chris Hamrick.
Yeah, exactly.
How he was to you, just telling kids like, "Listen, kid, I'm not bumping.
Yeah.
We're not doing shit."
Because I've definitely had several matches where there's been some heavy shoots, and it's like you're in the middle, especially if people are starting to get physical in their shoots. You're like, what is, like back then I'd be more inclined to be aggressive. Now that I'm older and I don't wrestle as much, I don't want to be caught in the like.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be like thinking what the hell's going on instead of, kicking ass back, and even if you kick ass back, it's like, people don't want to work with you, or you get a bad reputation and all that. So it's like, fuck, I don't need any of that. So I just want to work with people I know, I like,
Oh yeah.
professional. I know are going to be more professional and stuff. So
After over the years of wrestling, have you bumped into any major injuries?
I'm sure I've had. Well, actually, yeah. I never went to the doctor, but
Sounds like a wrestler.
Yeah.
Sounds like a wrestling problem.
but last summer,
Got about 10 of those.
there was an accident where the guy taking the shoulder tackle kind of started bumping before I even got to him. And so instead of like making contact first and kind of rolling off,
Yeah.
I pretty much landed feet first, and my left leg was dangling. So I've landed everything on my right leg, and my knee. I know this is a podcast, so I wish I could show it, but my knee came out to the left and down. My knee was right here.
Oof. Yeah.
And I could not stand
You're
up.
like, what the hell?
And probably wasn't smart, but my son's in the audience, so I did not. My youngest son's in the audience, so I did not want to like go in an ambulance ride and leave him stranded there.
You freak your kid
so
out.
the only thing
like-
I could do was, as I was trying to stand up, I had one arm like hooked across the ropes like this to hold me up a little bit, and I
just pushed.
Oh my God! I don't know if I've ever felt more pain in my life.
Worst pain ever.
Jesus! And then I could not take a normal step for 3 months.
Really?
Yeah, I had to take 6 months off from wrestling, and driving home was the worst experience in the world that night. I had tears in my eyes.
How old was your kid at the time?
9.
All right, yeah, so he couldn't have drove then.
No,
Never mind.
no. He's like, "Dad, you look like you're in pain."
He was
I'm
like 14. You'd be like, get in there, kid.
Yeah,
my knees,
maybe.
My knees
Yeah, I
jacked
might.
up.
"Come on, all you have to do is steer or put your foot on the gas. Dad can help you steer."
I'll hold the wheel.
I have that exact same memory, and it sucks. So I totally know what you're saying.
Pushing your knee back into place.
And driving home in lots of pain. But luckily, the street was in Fall River, only down the street from my house. So
Why didn't I just drive? Did I take? Oh no, separate cars. I had my car. We didn't. Oh, it's because it was Fall River.
that dirty deed going on.
The Dirty Deeds, my friend. And no, that wasn't the Fall River show.
No, yeah, that was in the Elks Lodge. Forever showcase.
I don't know what Dirty Deeds you're talking about, but I was probably up to them. Yeah.
I had a doctor tell me I had something wrong with the muscle, and it does flare up from time to time. We were in practice, and Tim Towers power bombed me. He was doing a running power bomb, and he slipped, and he just kind of like threw me in an awkward way.
Yeah.
And when I landed, I could not stand up straight for like, that was another ride home that was awful. I had to take like a month off then. Oh, that was an awful experience.
Just shitty rides home. Man.
Oh,
that's something that the fans don't ever take into consideration. That after the show, when you're just beat up and sweaty and you're just trying to, you got an hour and a half drive home and you're just pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, that's the jive that we go through on a regular basis.
My ear got ripped in half this way. You could pull it. You could literally pull it apart that far. You should see. I couldn't believe how much blood I lost in that. It was weird.
That was from practice?
No, that was in a show.
Okay.
That was it was an accident. I was wrestling Mike. What the hell's his name? Mike Benoit. Bennett. Okay. And it was like
was this when he was brand new?
Yeah, this was his second match ever.
Super green.
And I helped him. I helped.
He might have been Mike Benoit at the time.
Yes, he was. So
Benoit, however he said it.
I know.
He changed it though.
Yeah.
I thought it was Benoit. Everybody tells me it was Benoit, but I swear he was Benoit at one point.
It might have been. I mean, in practice we would call him Mike Benoit. So
maybe it was Benoit.
Because I helped train him. Like the first 2 months he was there. Like I did tons of spots with him, and it was great. We had a nice match. We went over it, and it was I thought we were having a really, really good match. Crowd was. It was one of those shows where like 150 people there. The crowd was hot.
Right.
They were eating everything up he was doing. I was selling like a mad dog, and it was my big cutoff spot. And we did the hot shot. But for whatever reason, I don't know if I pulled him too far, but instead of like hitting the buckle and falling out, he was like, he landed on my head with his knee. And Jesus, like when he landed, and he was a big kid.
Right, yeah,
so,
he's always been a big dude.
So I remember sitting up, and the room was like all like going back and forth like weirdly. And I rolled out of the ring, and as I'm starting to get up, I could feel like something all over my side.
Right.
And I look down, and I'm just
covered in blood.
Covered in blood. And all the kids in the front were like
freaking out.
Yeah, like
yeah.
My oldest son was there, and at the time he was like 11. So it was just like, what the hell? And
right.
It was funny. We were supposed to go another 5 or 6 minutes. I rolled in, and he didn't even know to do this. He threw a clothesline. I ducked. I slammed him.
Yeah.
Shoulder tackle from the top. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and going home, kid.
When I got home, my eventual brother-in-law now ex-brother-in-law, drove me to the ER, and I had to get fucking like 20 stitches. Yeah, it was funny. Like there was no doctor there, and my eventual wife, now ex, she's driving home for me, and I'm
holding your ear, making sure it doesn't fall off.
Cloth, and like you get the cloth off at home, it's all red. And she calls up her brother, and he comes over, and he like peels apart my ear, and he's just like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "We gotta go to the doctor." It's like 1 a.m.
Right.
So like, I'm surprised he did that for me, but I was like, "Whoa."
Now, since you've gone full circle, like I said, you started watching the show with Brickhouse Baker, full circle, House of Bricks heavyweight champion. What are some of your some advice you could give to the new kids breaking in, this new generation of guys breaking in now, the guys trying to make a name for themselves on these shows?
Try to be yourself as much as you can. Like that's one thing that the more I was who I am in the ring. I don't know if that made any sense. The more I became myself in the ring, the better I felt I got. And just pay attention to the crowd, let the crowd, tell the story to the crowd. Don't just tell it for yourselves. But a lot of other things, not much. I mean, everybody that's coming in does way more cooler stuff than I do. I'm not a big flipper and stuff like that. I'm just I bump, I sell, and take punishment.
Is there any wrestling schools out there that you would recommend?
No, I'm so far. Like I, if there was any kind of training that I knew about and I had more time, I would definitely like to show up once in a while and just, I can practice without bumping and just working on things I'd want to work on.
Right.
But no, I wish I could, but I don't really know of any.
Like you were saying, you're just so far removed from, the last time you went to a practice was.
Yeah, long time ago.
Right.
Real long time ago.
But is any other stories that you wanted to tell or anything like that you wanted to get out there?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I don't mind answering any question, but like wrestling's been great. I started when I was 24, just turned 24. I'll be turning 24 or I'll be turning 44 in March. So it's been a great ride. I've met a lot of great people. Some not so great, but I've met a lot of great people. Like I don't regret joining this at all. I've had a great time. A lot of memories.
See, I like that positive kind of attitude thing. Because sometimes people come on here and they're a little bitter, or you talk to guys in the locker room, they're a little bitter about wrestling. Kind of, pro wrestling can ruin lives for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things like I wish could have turned out different, and I think sometimes things could have. But I mean, I've also made choices that put me in. I've made choices over wrestling instead of
right.
wrestling over other things. So who knows? If I did that, maybe things would have turned out a little different. But like, I don't know. We're watching a match, me, Gino, and Highlight Kid, and Ashworth and Baker, and Tony the Booker. Like I don't feel any less just because I wrestled. I didn't wrestle for the WWE. These guys were great.
Right, in front of packed houses.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've watched some matches where,
time.
I've some of these matches I've seen that tons of people in the country never get to see. Like, Davey's a hell of a wrestler. Gino was really good back then. I mean, Ashworth is a great showman. Brickhouse
Ashworth is Ashworth, and he I don't know. He just knows how to get a crowd, man.
Yeah.
Ash knows how to get a crowd.
And I tell you, like you really can't find a match that you don't think Brickhouse is worth, the $10, $15
admission alone, right?
Yeah. I mean, his matches are entertaining to always. You always feel like you've seen a really quality wrestling match when he wrestles.
It's so funny looking at him, Brickhouse, right there. How much he looks like Devin and David.
Yeah.
Like now, you know what I mean?
And like Kahuna was a hell of a showman for a big guy, and Andy Jax was, Kevin Kelly wrestling, all those guys. Kevin Kelly did make the big time. So,
yeah.
Wrestling Cruise the other night was super fun. Wrestling David, I've had like 3 or 4 really good matches, I think, with Dave.
Yeah.
And physical too.
He's a physical cat. For
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, he is. I've had 4 or 5 matches with Candido that I really enjoy. Like, I always enjoy working with people. I don't want to give the impression that I don't.
Right. No, I know what you're saying.
Like matches that really were like, wow. You're driving home and you're like,
you're
trying not to be modest, but you're like, that was a real. I thought that was really good. Like, there's plenty of nights where I drive home saying, that was all right, but
right.
I mean, we could have done this, could have done that, could have done this. I should have done this.
Well,
I didn't sell that the way I should have.
I mean, it kind of goes into the point that you were saying, the feeling the crowd thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you feel a crowd and you placate to that crowd, and the reactions are big, it makes your match better, and, it makes you feel like it's just a different feeling at the end of the night when you know that you've worked a crowd properly.
I know a lot of people didn't like me sometimes after matches. I never wanted to be, like, sometimes I would think, especially, like, you'd see a bad match, and I'm not going to get in it. I don't remember a lot of specifics.
Any specific names or anything.
But, you'd watch a bad match, and they get behind the curtain. That was great. That was great. That was great. And everybody else saying, that was great. That was great. That was great.
Right, and everybody's just saying it's great.
And I would hate my matches, like, when you'd feel it, like, you're coming behind the curtain. You're really disappointed in whether it be your own performance or the other guy's performance, or you both together just did not, for whatever reason,
Just
work.
didn't click.
And then the first thing they want to do, and the people around you want, oh, that was great, that was great, that was great. You almost want to be like, and I did sometimes, like, no, that kind of sucked.
Right. No, it's funny because some people are just clueless.
Yeah.
Because like I don't want, I'm not gonna name any names, but we wrestled the tag team one time, and after the match, one of the guys came over and he just straight apologies for everything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I botched this. I forgot this. And his tag team partner came over with a big smile on his face, like, "Hey guys, that was great. I had a fun time." You know what I mean, kind of thing. And it's like, were you not out there for the same match that we were all just in?
Yeah, and you know, you can have a fun time, I guess. Maybe you can't. But for me, it was just like I didn't want to be like, "That was great," you know. And they wouldn't. Great? No, it was mediocre at best.
Right,
or,
barely passable.
This match sucked. I don't know
Right.
how you can say that was great. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just. That's like one of the only things like I think wrestlers have a really thin skin about or something in the
Yeah.
It's like
Everybody just wants their ego stroked, kind of thing.
I mean, that's, you know, if my match is horrible, usually I know it before anybody else does.
Before anybody says anything to you about if it was good or bad. But Foster, dude, thank you for coming out, man.
Thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Like I said, a long time coming, but obviously welcome to come back on again sometime. If you any stories, other stories you remember, you know, we get into. I want to do one where I kind of just get a bunch of road stories from guys and put them all into one episode with a bunch of different road stories from different guys from this area.
God, there's
a ton. Maybe even guys telling the same road story.
You should ask Brickhouse.
Cutting it together.
Get Brickhouse's version of we were at a camp show, and he wrestled more. He was a super classic good guy. I was a super classic bad guy, and I don't know what happened. I don't remember exactly. I remember it happening, but I don't. My perspective, I didn't really. I was so into what was going on. I took a bump into the guardrail, and this little girl must have been leaning against it. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old.
Yeah,
she gets thrown or something like that, and we go back to. You get carted to the ring and back to the ring in these golf carts, and it's like I don't know, maybe 100 feet. It was a while, and you go upstairs in this thing and change. Well, people were throwing stuff at me, like fucking rocks and batteries and stuff like that. It was like, oh, they were pissed. Like I don't know what happened, and like so, and it was a really good match too. Like we, you know, that was one of the ones where me and Baker really knocked it out of the park. I thought we did. Crowd was fucking hot as hell. 300 people in this campground. I'm gonna say it. They're all super redneck, and I'm a bit redneck myself. So yeah, a little bit. So, but these guys, I mean, like we're changing, and now like there's like 200 people outside this, and they're fucking pissed, and like what little security the campground have is there. And one of the wrestlers goes up, they're like, "What the fuck did you do, Mike?" I'm like, "What?" And they're like everybody's like, "That guy fucking punched my little girl in the face." I'm like, "No, I didn't." And Brickhouse even like was telling like the guys because they can't, you know, that was a show you can't watch anything because you're stuck way back there. He's like, "You got thrown in the guardrail. She must have been leaning against the guardrail." And like, no, and you know, part of the crowd was drunk, but the drunk guys were like, we're gonna give a piece of our mind. So and like it was getting scary out. Like it was weird. Like even all the veterans were like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like this is so Brickhouse goes, "Mate, give me your keys." I was like, "What are you gonna do?" He goes, "I'm gonna go start your truck." And he took my gear too. One of the only times the veteran carried the bag for the kids. I told him that's the way it should be, damn it. But so he gets in my truck and he has me. Like, some of the wrestlers volunteered. I remember Redemption was there, and Big Dog Wilson was there, and maybe Colossus was there, and a few others. But they kind of, at the bottom of the stairs, they made this very small path, and then as I'm down the stairs, we talked about this in the back, so I knew it was coming. He goes fucking flying through. I had this black Ford pickup truck, and like right when he gets there, he never stopped. Like he slowed down a little bit. I had to run and jump in the back, and he had to clear with the security people so they knew what was going on, and we had to fucking hightail it. Oh yeah, and he didn't even. we were like driving down the main road. He like didn't stop till he got to a gas station. He was fired up. He's like, "That's the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen." He's like, "You caused a riot."
I like to picture you waving your flag as you're driving away.
I should have. I did kind of. I had like it was my. There was like a rack or something on the top, so I was able to pull myself up, and I just went, "Whoa!" Probably wasn't the smartest thing, but that was a funny moment. That one was great. I just did a hurricane runner.
I was to say you did the headsets a deal over there, getting it in. These old Yankee shows. Foster, it was a blast, folks. I want to remind you, October 15th at the
Moose Lodge
in
New Bedford. South New Bedford.
The address is somewhere online. My Facebook.
I think it's 119.
119. Acushnet Ave. I'm just making the address up.
I know it's 119. It might be Acushnet Ave.
Check out HOB Wrestling, Facebook.com/HOB Wrestling. That'll have all the info. Plus, we'll be sharing the event in the upcoming weeks promoting the show. Check out Foster's title defense against Chris Cruz. Who's an old friend of ours, and now I was going to say I don't know who to root for anymore. But just like you said about us against the Middlesex Express, so I'm saying neutral. We're going to stay neutral over here, and we're taking on the Middlesex Express for the semifinals match for the tag team titles, and also that evening, Zach Ramus and Devin Baker are wrestling. I have no idea. Also for the semifinals matchup for the tag belts. So whoever wins those two matches for the tag belts, baby. I don't know who it's going to be.
And I'll just say I'm rooting for you, Foster, in that Chris Cruz match.
Damn it,
Cruz he hasn't been on the Mackcast yet, so
we're official Fosters.
Official Fosters.
Hold on, I gotta do a quick plug for Rich Palladino too. I'm wearing my my One Fall T-shirt. Check out Rich Palladino's got them available now, folks. They're dope shirts made by Legit Fit. If you need a T-shirt design, Legit Fit on Facebook. I think that's it.
The Thunder from Down Under. Thank you very much for
Thanks
coming
for having
to the
me, guys.
Mack
This
Mansion.
was fun. I'll do this again anytime you guys want.
We'll have to plan it 1 year ahead,
Yeah.
so we will make plans right now.
Next October 1st.
All right, great.
I'm Monster Mac, as always, with my sidekick on the side of me.
Training number 1.
Straight to your ear hole. It was the Mackcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Peace.